Lepofsky is an author, university lecturer, retired lawyer, husband, father, and to many across Canada, a champion of accessibility and inclusion. This two-part feature focuses on the life and career of a Canadian man dedicated to identifying, eliminating, and preventing barriers to the full participation of people with disabilities. Melanie Taddeo, the president and CEO of Connect4Life, helps listeners understand the practices and processes involved in advocacy, valuable lessons for anyone interested in issues promotion or campaign development. David also updates listeners on his lecturing at multiple universities, his recently published book, and his newest venture, a podcast, 3 areas of outreach, education, and promotion which are critical to the types of ongoing advocacy exemplified by David's life resume. This interview was conducted in August 2025 and represents the first in a series of conversations with a spectrum of leaders and champions. The Season 3 focus on profiles in advocacy.
Part 2.
David, can we go back and talk about the AODA? Because you were instrumental in the creation. And then I want to talk about us missing the target. And I'm doing the royal we. But so please tell us what the process was like and how you got involved.
If the story is in this the article that's posted on that web link, aodaalliance.org/publication. It's not the Swimming Up Niagara Falls articles publication, it's the other one. But here's in a nutshell. A number of us started thinking in the first half of the 90s that we needed a Disabilities Act, that the Human Rights Code and the Charter were good guarantees, but they weren't getting us where we needed to go. We didn't have a clue what that legislation would look like, but we knew we needed something. And we were inspired by something called the Americans with Disabilities Act, but truth be known, we didn't know much about it. And an opposite, when the one time the NDP were governing in Ontario, they had a backbencher, a friend of mine named Gary Malkowski, who was the only deaf member of a legislature at the time anywhere in a Western democracy. He introduced a bill, an Ontarians with Disabilities Act. The bill itself was nothing special, but that's okay. It brought people together, and it got to a standing committee in November of 1994. This is 31 years ago. And about 20 of us went to that standing committee. We were eventually going to appear, but we wanted to hear what the minister was going to say about the bill. Well, the minister got up and spoke, and it was frankly offensive. She said nothing about the bill. She said all sorts of patronizing things about Gary. And the 20 or so of us who had come there kind of stormed down the hall, and I think Gary had arranged another committee room, and word got out that there's a meeting, go in. So we all met in this room, and we all said, we need a coalition. And Gary said, we need a coalition. And so we all decided to form a coalition. It didn't have a name. We need a leader. I didn't want to be the leader. A friend named Sam Savona, sadly now passed away, but a wonderful advocate, took it on at first just because no one would take it. I later became a co-chair along with my colleague and friend Bob Fenton, and then later the two of them decided over time they couldn't continue. And I led the coalition. It was called the Ontarians with Disabilities Act Committee. And we fought for a decade, from 94 to 05. We organized from one community to the next. We used the strategies that you now see its successor, the AODA Alliance, using. But we came up with the ideas of what we wanted in law. We consulted around the province. We brought together consumer groups and service-providing charitable or nonprofits. And first, the conservative government of Mike Harris brought in a weak bill, the Ontarians with Disabilities Act, in 2001. We all slammed it. And then they were succeeded by the McGinty Liberals, and they brought in the AODA in 2005 after working very closely with us on it. That was like a big deal. We really felt a strong sense of accomplishment and had every good reason to think so. It was the first accessibility law like this in Canada. It had a number of the things we wanted. We knew there was a lot of work ahead. Now, I decided, you may find this amusing, that my time was done, that it's time for new leadership. And I decided that the ODA committee should wrap up because our mandate was to get the law passed. We got it passed. And so, but I approached a number of organizations months before and quietly discussed with them, we need a succession plan. And we all agreed we'd create a successor coalition, which I was not planning to lead. And that was that was established. I wound up the ODA committee in August of 2019 and announced the birth of the AODA Alliance. And a good team took it on and got it started. And I really thought I was going to move on to other things. Everybody else said, Lepofsky, it's not going to happen. Are you joking? I said, no, I'm really serious. Well, within a couple of years, I was back in. That's a whole story we don't have time for. And
Well, we're happy you're back in. I'll be honest. Let's be honest. You are one of the leaders, and you know inside and out everything that you've been a part of. So it makes sense.
Well, in '09, a good friend of mine who was the chair had to step down for personal reasons, and I was asked to step in as chair, and here I am. And if you go to our website, aodaalliance.org, you can see all about the fight we've waged. And if you want to follow, and I really hope you will, sign up to get our updates. Go to aodaalliance.org, and right near the top there's a link to click to sign up for our email updates, our newsletter. So just type in your email address, and bang, you'll get our updates.
And I encourage our listeners to definitely do that. I get them every time they come out, and I'm educated every time. I think I'm in the know, but really, truly, there's so much happening. It's hard to keep up with everything. So, okay, we know that the government said, okay, by 2025, Ontario is going to be fully accessible. January 2025, it came and went. And you were all over the news talking about this. Can you tell us what that was like?
Well, we were furious. Lots of people with disabilities are furious that the government let us down. And we've been warning for years and years that this would come. But that doesn't mean that we're done. The law didn't vanish on January 1st. And our view is the government has the same obligations it's always had. It's just failed to meet them, get to work. And we are planning to continue fighting for this. But also, it doesn't mean that the past 20 years have been a waste of time. While progress has been far too slow, I am confident that we are further ahead than we would have been if we never fought for this law.
100%.
And I am confident of that both in terms of actual barriers in society and in terms of what I said before about people with disabilities seeing themselves as rights holders and the profile we get of these issues. I mean, if we didn't have that law, we couldn't have gotten that coverage of how far we've fallen behind.
I agree 100%. And I think, everybody's like, oh, it's because X, Y, and Z. I said, but the thing is, it's a collective effort. Yes, the government needs to be heading this up, but also it's the business owners, it's the community, it's all of us working together. So what do you think needs to happen collaboratively to make this a reality?
Well, I'm going to tell you that the answer to that is something people will get in our updates because virtually all of our updates list actions we need and have a section called How You Can Help. Because it's important that we get the help from as many as we can. Now, everybody's busy, everybody's overloaded. So the things we add to the How You Can Help are meant to be actions you can take quickly. So that's one thing. The other thing is I'm aiming to do more to help people learn how to do advocacy. And to that end, here I am announcing this fall we'll be starting a new podcast. And I'm going to invite everyone to watch for it and then get ready to sign up for it. We will announce it in AODA updates when it starts. It's going to be produced by AMI, Accessible Media. It's going to be called Disability Rights and Wrongs, the David Lepofsky. And the idea is talk about barriers, talk about people who fought either successfully or otherwise, and give people action tips. And my aim, if I'm successful, is not just to talk to disability advocates, so I'd like you to meet them, but also to talk to people, if I can, who've been on the other side and get their take on it. What have we done right or wrong? What worked? What should we do differently? What should we keep doing? So and I'm hoping that this podcast will be fun and interesting, but I also want it to be useful for people who care about these issues and for people who are just interested in social justice advocacy generally. One of the biggest barriers we've faced in terms of success for 31 years that we've had to overcome is not intransigent governments, and some of them have been, and not an unreceptive media, and there are times the media has been unreceptive, but has been the understandable feeling by so many people that there's nothing we can do about it. That kind of watch the TV news and just yell at the TV and figure, there's nothing I can do. I understand why people feel that way. The thing is that there's so many examples of where we can. And the little bits, bite-sized, how you can help that you're going to see as ideas in our AODA updates. I'll give you examples of that. And I hope the podcast will too.
Well, I am so looking forward to that podcast. And again, please watch on all platforms, AODA Alliance and AMI, coming up for when that launches. David, you'll have to definitely put it far and wide, which I'm sure you and your team will do so, because I think that's going to be so beneficial. I have one question that has been burning in me, so I need to hear your perspective, David. Representation of individuals with disabilities at the political level has been very low. We had Carla, and she was wonderful, but now there's nobody in government right now that is taking on disability and accessibility as an individual with lived experience. What are your thoughts?
I get the point. I know why it matters. I look for substance, not symbolism. Now, symbolism can be important, but I know of cases where a provincial government can put a person with a disability in a minister role, and they are muzzled, or they're as we call it, flag catcher. So the government can say, "Oh, we have this minister," right?
Yeah.
And so on, but they don't listen to them. I mean, look, we had Carla. I like Carla a lot. I think she really cared. But we got $200 a month for a Canada disability benefit, far less than she articulated as what their aim was, lifting hundreds of thousands of people with disabilities out of poverty. I mean, and I don't care who you are. I care what you do.
Fair enough.
But also, we don't know how many people in cabinet or in caucus have an invisible disability, have a spouse with a disability, have a child with a disability. We're everywhere.
Yes.
So that's an asset, we can have. And the other thing is, I take the view, as I've said very often, that we're the minority of everyone. Because everybody either has their disability already or has got theirs coming later. So I don't think of someone without a disability as necessarily somebody without skin in the game.
Right.
Okay, and so I mean, I get the nothing about us without us focus. But my view is, I care what you do when you're in office. And if you do that and you don't have a disability and it's good, I'm good.
Yep. As long as something's being done.
Yeah, and we also have to be wary of the minister or the premier or whatever is, well, we have so and so over there, and they become um, a shield behind which they hide, and yet they may give that person no scope for action. They might have lived experience that shows that we need more, but they could have told their premier or prime minister, "You got to do A, B, and C," and been told no. And in that case, that cabinet minister with a disability, they can't come out and say that they disagree with their government. They'll lose their portfolio.
Right.
So I see the value of somebody on the inside telling them that. Uh, don't get me wrong, but I also see the all the other things I said. So in the larger scheme of things, I care what people do, not what they are. And when it comes to the entire government, if they deliver on implementing or enacting good disability legislation, and they don't have a minister who has a disability, I mean, I'll take the legislation.
Okay. Fair enough. And
You follow
yeah,
me?
and that makes sense. It makes so much sense because it's not about tokenism. It's about making sure things get done.
Yep.
All right. And you've probably been doing so much research in your time with advocacy work. Where across the globe would you say what country or region or jurisdiction has the best disability and accessibility program and services, would you say, in your opinion?
Okay. The first thing is I haven't studied enough to be able to draw a comparison.
Okay.
I can say that there are different places that do things uh, better than us in certain ways. Um, I have heard, but I haven't been there, that Japan has a lot of tactile walking surface indicators, which is great for visually impaired people. The US has the most robustly enforced legislation, even though it falls quite short in terms of some aspects of it, and God knows what the Trump government's going to do to it. Um, I also know that when I go to the States, I just experience a more accessible world. Not accessible enough, but still, I feel like when I go to the States, like I'm going through a time machine into the future. Um, I can tell you that um, New Zealand is behind us in a lot of ways, but if you go to New Zealand or Australia, there are a heck of a lot more audible pedestrian signal. And I think they are ones you don't have to push the darn button to turn them on.
Mm,
And
good.
kinda I find that push button operation is absurd,
It is.
and I never use it. I think they are I think those, automatic audible pedestrian signals, if they require you to push them, is a waste of money trying to look like they're doing something when they're
Well, it's so interesting because you're right. We have to just go around and do the comparison, but there are definitely countries that are ahead of the game and we can hope to catch them. But then some of it, we are definitely ahead. I've spent a lot of time in South Africa recently because we opened a chapter of Connect4Life in South Africa, and there's so much work to be done there. And again, understandable. It's a third world country. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, and they definitely have want to do it, the desire, but it's just the know-how. So hopefully that all of us collaboratively on an international level will be able to share best practices to make things happen.
there's an organization in Europe called the Zero Project. I have not explored them, in any depth, but they seem to be tied into who's doing what where and who's doing what better.
We'll have to check that out for sure. Now, David, as we wrap up, you've talked about all this exciting stuff that you're going to be doing with AODA Alliance, but also with the podcast coming up. But what is your hope and what advice can you give to young advocates? What is it that you want to see change in Ontario? Let's start there in the next decade, let's say.
I want to see the barrier-free society we were promised, and nothing short of it. I don't want bureaucrats telling me they're going to improve accessibility. Throw one ramp in Kenora, and we've improved accessibility. I want that goal met.
Mm.
I want to see no new barriers starting today. And I think in 10 years, let's get rid of the barriers we've got. I want to see housing. With all this talk about building new housing, I want to make sure that it's accessible. all this money going into federal and provincial infrastructure. I'd like to see them start building it without barriers for it. Education is a mess for students with disabilities. I'm doing tons of advocacy in that area, both in schools and college universities. And we have 72 school boards in Ontario who are left to reinvent the accessibility wheel as much or as little as they want. It's a mess. It's a real crisis, and it ain't getting better. For young disability advocates, I want you to plug in and decide, I can't change everything, but I can sure try to change something. And the way to do that, in addition to your podcast, is to go to aodaalliance.org, aodaalliance.org. Go down a couple of links, sign up for our updates. Go to Twitter if you're still on it. Follow at AODA Alliance. I haven't been on it a bit because I've been tied up with some other work, but I'll be getting back. We have a Facebook page. Feel free to follow it and share it. It's really important to share the stuff we've got. And sign up for my podcast when it's ready. You'll know. But the other thing to know is AODA Alliance has we've put out a ton of video that are meant to be helpful for you. If you go to our website, aodaalliance.org, or you stick of that /videos, you'll see a list of them all, and you'll see about 4 or 5 collections of some of them. So there's a list of videos that can help in the area of education. You're a parent of a student with a disability. We have a video that gives you tips on how to advocate for your child's needs. If you know there's this thing called the duty to accommodate people with disabilities, but you don't actually know what it means or what it includes. So we've got a video on an introduction to the duty to accommodate. If you've heard of the AODA, you want to learn more about it, we have a video called AODA 101. Just Google AODA 101. And it'll give you, in 1 hour, a full overview of how the legislation is designed, how it works, and so on. We've got tons of stuff like that is out there, and it's all free.
And these resources are invaluable. So I encourage all of our audience to check out the website. Definitely follow David on all the social media platforms and stay tuned for his upcoming podcast. David, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's been a pleasure. And again, we will be following all of your incredible work and all the incredible work of the AODA Alliance because you have a team behind you. And I just want to say thank you for all you do. Until next time, stay tuned for another episode with another changemaker in our community. Thank you, David.
You have been listening to Connect4Life, the podcast. Connect4Life is a Canadian-based registered charity committed to eliminating barriers for people with disabilities. Visit connect4life.ca and join us in helping people with disabilities become the champions of their growth stories.